All right, so it's Halloween. We had to do a Halloween episode. This is our first year doing this show. We got to do it. So we did it United A-Hole style.
This is United A-Holes, a video cast discussing cultural topics with no filter.
All right, so the whole premise behind this is that we all have 4 minutes to tell our story. I flipped it, and I'm going to tell as many stories as I can in 4 minutes. They're all short, scary stories. And there'll be no, this is the beginning or this is the end. I'm just going to start telling them. So if it doesn't make much sense, I explained it to you. Pay attention. So, you ready? Go. I begin tucking him into bed, and he tells me, "Daddy, check for monsters under my bed." I looked underneath for his amusement to see him, another him, under the bed, staring back at me, quivering and whispering, "Daddy, there's someone on my bed." I woke up to hear knocking on glass. At first I thought it was the window until I heard it come from the mirror. She wondered why she was casting two shadows. After all, there was only a single light bulb in the room. The grinning face stared at me from the darkness beyond my bedroom window. I live on the 14th floor. There was a picture on my phone of me sleeping. I live alone. You get home tired after a long day's work and ready for a relaxing night alone. You reach for the light switch, but another hand is already there. You hear your mom calling you into the kitchen. As you're headed down the stairs, you hear a whisper from the closet. "Don't go down there, honey, I heard it too." The longer I wore it, the more it grew on me. She had such pretty skin. I always thought my cat had a staring problem. She always seemed fixated on my face, until one day I realized she was always looking just behind me. "I can't sleep," she whispered, crawling into bed with me. I woke up cold, clutching the dress she was buried in. I just saw my reflection blink. I peeked outside. The pizza delivery guy is at the door, but I didn't order pizza, and definitely not from someone wearing a pig mask. The wailing from the baby monitor just won't stop. The problem is my daughter is with her mother for the weekend, over 200 miles away. My husband woke me up by kissing my cheek when he got home late. This morning I checked my phone. He stayed with a friend last night. For sale. Like new. Engagement ring. Barely worn. Came right off her finger. Finger also for sale for the right offer. I have a reoccurring dream I'm murdered by a man I never met. I thought it was stupid until I went on a blind date and saw him at the table. Roses are red, violets are blue. There's someone right behind you. I was starving and lost in the woods until I found a hiker. I'm full now. I just wish she hadn't screamed so loud.
Jenny and Marie are in the dormitory, getting ready for the exam that is tomorrow morning. Marie says, "I'm not really into the studying tonight. I'm going out with Bobby." Jenny looks at her and says, "Well, we got to study for this exam. I'll be fine." So Marie takes off. Jenny stays and studies. Later that night, Marie gets home and the lights are out and she doesn't want to wake Marie up. So Jenny creeps in, doesn't turn on the lights, crawls into bed. Next morning, the alarm goes off. She says, Marie, we gotta go to the exam. Marie doesn't stir. She goes over to Marie's bed, shakes her, no response. She throws her quilts off. There's a bloody mess of what was Marie. Jenny is aghast, and she just happens to glance up the ceiling, and written in blood, aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights?
2 weeks ago, during a meeting of the UA, we talked about this episode, and it was suggested that we bring in a Ouija board. I declined. For the record, I will never use a Ouija board. I will not have one in my presence. And here's why. While I was in high school, visiting a friend, another friend and a girl that he was interested in came over with said board in tow. And it didn't take long before it hit the coffee table, and my friend Glenn actually put his hands on the pointer and asked it jokingly, "Mr. Ouija, am I fat?" Which was met with a lot of laughter and everything from those present in the room. This went on for a few moments and some stupid questions, and finally Brian got bored and said, "Ask the Ouija who he is, what's its name?" And so Glenn asked the question, and the response was, "Why?" Brian said, "Just tell him I'm curious." But Glenn didn't ask that question. He asked the Ouija board if he was scared to answer the question. The Ouija board responded with, "Why don't you ask the fucking whore in the room?" Referring to the only female that was present. Brian said, "Ask the Ouija board if it wants to go fuck itself." The Ouija's response was, "Why don't you just fuck the whore? I think she wants you to." At that point in time, Brian had had enough, and he walked over to the board after he went into his mother's room and put a Bible down on it, at which time the pointer flew off on the other side of the room. Needless to say that the board was packed up, and I will never be in the presence of one ever again. We actually did find out the name, but I'll never repeat it because it was the same name as the girl that was present in the room.